actually I want to achieve those targets no matter how difficult they feel, like the 1.5 million homes target. It is a stretch target, but I'm absolutely determined to at the end of this Parliament to be able to hold my head up high and proudly say we give it our best and look at what we achieved, as opposed to...
Angela Rayner's confidence crumbled on live air as she struggled to defend Labour's housing promises, fumbling over simple questions and leaving viewers stunned. How could someone so seasoned fall apart so spectacularly?
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, one of the BBC's 100 women, talks to me after what's been a tricky first 5 months in government. She says councils will have to deliver on Labour's plans to build 1.5 million new homes in England.
The host immediately pressed Rayner on Labour's plan to build 1.5 million homes, highlighting challenges like planning backlogs and material shortages. Rayner's optimistic but vague responses lacked the substance needed to reassure anyone of the plan's feasibility.
Have you told those councils and those council leaders that
Yes.
that's what they've got to do? So you're not listening to them?
We are listening to them and we've been very clear, and I think those councils will accept as well that this is a real emergency. Many councils at the moment are spending huge sums of money.
The moment the host asked Rayner to name specific companies that supported Labour's housing plan, the cracks in her confidence began to show. Instead of offering a straightforward response, she stumbled, mentioning general roundtables and vague discussions with businesses, but failing to name even one company backing the proposal. This moment wasn't just awkward, it was telling. Her inability to provide even a single example underscored a troubling lack of preparation and a tendency to rely on charm rather than hard facts.
On temporary accommodation, on people being in B&Bs, over 150,000 children are now in temporary accommodation.
I think they understand the problems. It's whether they can actually...
The interview quickly spiralled as the host continued to probe deeper. Questions about the logistical and economic viability of the housing plan were met with similarly evasive responses. Industry experts have already flagged the plan as overly ambitious, pointing out that planning delays, rising construction costs and land shortages make such targets virtually unattainable. The host repeatedly highlighted these concerns, but Rayner offered little more than platitudes. Her insistence that the plan was achievable simply because it needed to be only served to amplify doubts about Labour's credibility.
There's been many of the companies that we've worked with, like I say, so many of them.
You have committed as a pledge to build 1.5 million new homes during this Parliament. You are also the Housing Secretary as well as the Deputy Prime Minister. Almost every single Labour council in England that the BBC has spoken to...
Huge vacancies
you've got You've got the biggest companies, recruitment companies, saying that it could put £34 billion of economic...
One of the most damaging aspects of the interview was the focus on Labour's economic risks. Experts have warned that Labour's housing strategy could result in a £34 billion economic risk, a figure that Rayner struggled to address. Instead of providing a detailed rebuttal or mitigation strategy, she attempted to redirect the conversation, but the host persisted. This relentless questioning exposed not just the flaws in the housing plan, but also Labour's broader struggle with accountability. If Labour couldn't articulate how it would avoid such a massive economic shortfall, how could it expect public trust in its policies?
I'm just saying, do you think you would have a rethink on it?
Well, I think that there was an imbalance, and we spoke to many businesses. They've been working with us to get the Employment Rights Bill forward.
Can you name a company, a few of them, that have welcomed these proposals?
Well, we've worked with many of the companies.
Name a few.
I've worked with...
Rayner's repeated claims that businesses were eager to partner with Labour only compounded her credibility issues. The host directly challenged her to name these supposed allies, but Rayner once again faltered. Her vague references to many companies and numerous discussions rang hollow, especially when she couldn't name a single supporter. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a glaring failure that undermined both her authority and Labour's broader message.
A big fall in Labour support since the election, with the Conservatives ahead in some polls and Reform UK picking up support too. What most worries you, Angela Rayner, the challenge from Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives?
As the interview continued, Rayner's frustration became evident. Her usual composure gave way to visible discomfort as the host pressed harder. The exchange wasn't just difficult to watch, It was outright humiliating. Rayner's attempts to regain control of the narrative by emphasising the urgency of the housing crisis fell flat when paired with her inability to provide clear answers. The host's focus on specifics, names, figures and concrete plans left no room for Rayner's generalities, and the contrast was glaring.
What most worries me in the challenge is delivery.
The tension reached its peak when Angela once again avoided a direct question. It was clear evasion wasn't just a tactic.
The revelation that a significant portion of the proposed new homes could be allocated to migrants added another layer of controversy. Rayner attempted to downplay this issue, claiming Labour's housing strategy would benefit everyone, but the numbers suggested otherwise. Critics have argued that such an allocation overlooks the housing needs of key workers and long-term residents who are already struggling. The host challenged Rayner on this point, but her evasive responses only fueled the perception that Labour's priorities were misaligned with public sentiment.
Cabinet resignation. The former Transport Secretary Louise Haigh quit, and she quit after it emerged she'd pleaded guilty to a fraud offence, now a spent conviction, a decade ago. Do you think she's been treated fairly?
The tension reached its peak when the conversation turned to Labour's overall accountability. The host repeatedly asked how Labour planned to deliver on its ambitious promises, and Rayner's responses continued to dodge the specifics. This pattern of evasion wasn't just frustrating, it was deeply damaging. By failing to provide direct answers, Rayner inadvertently reinforced the perception that Labour avoids scrutiny and lacks the credibility needed to govern effectively.
Well, Louise decided to resign, but Louisa did great work while she was in our cabinet, and she's a good friend of mine. I've known her for many years, and what she achieved in the short months that she was in the cabinet was exceptional.
The final moments of the interview were particularly brutal. When asked about Labour's housing targets and the economic risks associated with them, Rayner's responses grew increasingly vague. Her repeated inability to name supportive businesses or provide a clear roadmap for achieving the targets left her exposed. The host's relentless questioning made it clear that this wasn't just a bad day for Rayner. It was a devastating moment for Labour's credibility as a whole.
Her decision on that, but I think she was an outstanding member of our cabinet.
So it was her decision, not the Prime Minister's?
Well, she resigned, is my understanding, and the Prime Minister accepted her resignation.
By the end of the interview, Rayner's confidence was shattered. What began as an opportunity to showcase Labour's vision turned into a public unravelling that raised serious questions about her competence and preparedness. Her failure to provide clear, substantive answers wasn't just a personal embarrassment, it cast a shadow over the entire Labour Party. For a party that has often been accused of over-promising and under-delivering, this interview was a stark reminder of the importance of accountability and preparation.
Have you spoken to her? How is she?
I have spoken to her, yeah, and she's fine. You know, she's getting on with the business of supporting.
Rayner's performance didn't just reflect poorly on her. It was a cautionary tale for any politician relying on charm and optimism to carry them through tough scrutiny. Confidence is no substitute for preparation, and promises mean little without a credible plan to back them up. The host's pointed questions and refusal to accept vague answers exposed the cracks in Labour's housing strategy and raised broader concerns about the party's ability to deliver on its ambitious goals.
Should she take the £17,000 ministerial golden goodbye, the severance pay?
Well, that, you know...
This interview wasn't just a tough moment for Rayner, it was a damaging blow to Labour's credibility. The doubts raised here will linger, casting a shadow over the party's promises and policies as they move forward. For Rayner, the humiliation wasn't just about being caught unprepared, it was about the broader implications of what her performance says about Labour's readiness to lead. This wasn't just a bad day for Angela Rayner, it was a day that Labour will struggle to recover from, as trust in their vision and their ability to deliver continues to erode. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.